Good evening, members, officers and members of the public. If you have mobile devices with you, if you would kindly put them on silent or turn them off, please. And if the fire alarm sounds, it's not a drill, it'll be the real thing, and if you leave the building by the marked fire exits. This committee meeting is being live streamed. It is also being recorded, and the link to the live stream can be found on the council's website, www.tenderingdc.gov.uk/live meetings. For the purpose of the recording, I will introduce everyone. I'm Councillor Maria Fowler, Chairman of the Planning Committee, and I'll introduce the members of the committee separately. Councillor Maurice Alexander.
Good evening, Chairman.
Councillor James Codling.
Evening, Chair.
Councillor Bernard Goldman.
Chair.
Councillor Geeta Sudra.
Good evening, Chair.
Councillor Anne Wiggins.
Good evening, Chairman.
And our Vice Chairman, Councillor John White.
Good evening, Chairman.
The council officers assisting the committee this evening are from Committee Services, Bethany Jones and Katie Coppenall. From Planning Services, Planning Officer Amy Lang. Planning Manager John Pateman G. Corporate Director Planning and Community Gary Guyver, and our Planning Solicitor Joanne Fisher. There are no changes to the running order of the agenda. The application will be presented by the officer, followed by public speaking in the order of the applicant or agent. Any members of the public who have already asked to speak for or against the application, a speaker from the town or parish council, finally the ward councillor, and I have no speakers listed for this evening. Members of the committee will then have the chance to question the officer. Once all the questions are answered, the committee will then debate. When the points are discussed, finally I shall ask if we have a resolution, then call for a proposer and seconder, and the committee will then vote according to the normal rules. Item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence and substitutions. Please, Bethany.
Thank you, Chair. I have received an apology on behalf of Councillor Jeff Bray with no substitutions.
Thank you, Bethany. Item 2, the minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 27th of November 2025. And those of you who attended that meeting, have you had a look at those minutes? Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Wiggins, seconded by Councillor Alexander. Could I have a show of hands from those who were present? Councillor Goldman, were you present? No. You were in the public gallery, weren't you? Thank you very much. Those minutes are accepted. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any? No? None? Okay, thank you. Item 4, questions on notice pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 3.8.
Thank you, Chair. There are no questions.
Thank you, Bethany. And our one and only application on the agenda tonight is A125/01081/FUL, land south of Main Road, Freighting. And to present this application, our officer, Mrs. Amy Lang. Over to you, Amy.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. The first and only item on the agenda for this evening is the planning application before you for 7 detached dwellings and garages and a new access. And the application site is to the south of Main Road in Freighting. So the red line site plan for the application shows the extent of the site to be approximately 0.6 hectares. It's on the western edge of the built-up area of Freighting and to the south of Main Road. The site frontage is approximately 110 metres in length. This slide shows an aerial image of the site location and its surroundings. To the east of the site is the former Holly Farm. The approved developments for the replacement of the redundant farmhouse on that site and the associated buildings are underway, and members would have seen that on their site visit. We've got 5 dwellings being built to the front portion of the site and 3 dwellings to the rear portion of the site. Here are some site photos. So this is looking east at the adjacent development under construction. This image is looking south into the application site. And this image is looking west toward the neighbouring property, with the opposite dwelling to the right-hand side of this image. And that's a closer image of the neighbouring property to the west of the site. So this slide shows the proposed layout of the scheme. It's comprising 3 5-bed properties and 4 4-bed properties, served by a single central access point leading to a private driveway and turning areas. Each property will be served by a single garage, 2 further parking spaces and 4 visitor spaces to the front. Members will also note on the annotation there the internal footpath link through the front of the site, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail. This is a street scene plan that shows the proposed development in relation to the existing dwelling to the west and the proposed dwellings under construction to the east. Here's a couple of examples of the house types. So this is an example of the 4-bedroom property, just to show you an indication of the internal layout, number of bedrooms, open space living on the ground floor. And this is an example of the 5-bed property. As I said, each dwelling will be served by a single garage, some of them being double over a couple of the plots. And these are just some CGIs to illustrate how it's going to look in terms of the materials, with the materials detailed at the bottom there. So on to the merits of the application. The application is before members as it represents a technical departure from the local plan. The reason being it's outside the settlement boundary. However, because it's directly adjacent to the settlement boundary and our housing policies do support new development adjacent to development boundaries, we've brought this to members tonight just to explain the context of the site in terms of the settlement hierarchy. The local plan policies in relation to new housing do offer support for new development adjoining settlements. However, the policies require these types of applications to be assessed according to the scale and pattern of growth set out within the settlement hierarchy. So in this instance, Freighting is one of the lower scoring settlements, meaning that the application requires more thorough assessment than if it were adjacent to one of the district's higher scoring settlements. Freighting is defined as a smaller rural settlement, but is served by 2 pubs, a village hall, and it's got strong employment opportunities at the book service and Mannheim auctions. The proposed development will include a footway extension linking the site to the village centre and bus stops, and improving pedestrian access and sustainability. The regular bus services connect to Clacton and Colchester, with some routes to Angers Green and Manningtree. Freighting has limited services but excellent employment opportunity and good public transport links. And for these reasons, the site is considered a sustainable location for growth of this scale. In terms of the scale, layout and appearance of the development, this will essentially be seen as an infill of detached dwellings, integrating with the surrounding context and avoiding any material adverse visual impact. The mix of house types and materials finishes are varied and they add interest to the street scene, and the layout provides a generous setback from the highway and generous spacing between the dwellings. A condition is included within the recommendation removing permitted development rights for any new fences in the front of these dwellings, just to maintain that openness and not detract from the landscaped frontage. Only one small dead hawthorn tree along the frontage of the site will be removed, and the remaining existing trees will be kept with soft landscaping secured via condition. The openness of the site frontage and spacious layout, together with the retained trees, provides a smooth transition between the more built-up area of the village to the semi-rural character beyond. Development provides safe and suitable access with compliant parking, visitor bays, secure cycle storage, EV charging points for each home, a new footway link from the site to connect to the existing footway, which will provide pedestrian access to the centre of the village, the bus stop, which is supported by Freighting Parish Council. While the speed limit reduction was also requested by the Parish Council, this was not raised by Highways as being necessary to make the development acceptable. The proposed dwellings are appropriately spaced and arranged to secure a high standard of amenity for both existing and future occupants. Each property would benefit from a generously sized private garden, and the generous size of the dwellings means the internal dimensions exceed the space standards. Each property has got sufficient bin storage, recycling areas, a refuse collection point is at the front of the site, and as I said, EV charging can be provided for each property, and superfast broadband connection has also been confirmed. In terms of drainage, the application form confirms that the development would be served by connection to the mains in compliance with local plan policies. Anglian Water has objected to the application on the grounds that no details have been provided regarding surface water drainage. However, a surface water drainage strategy and consultation with the lead flood authority is not required for minor developments such as this, and the recommendation includes a condition for all hard surfacing to be made of porous or permeable surfacing. In terms of ecology, the proposal is subject to BNG. A biodiversity net gain assessment and metric have been provided with the application. The recommended conditions will secure the biodiversity gain plan and monitoring, and the conditions will also secure the RAMS contribution. There was an error in the originally submitted ecology report in relation to breeding birds, and an amended report has been provided, and Essex County Council ecology advisors have been reconsulted. The ecology survey confirms that the site is low in ecological value, with only common grassland and scrub and no suitable habitats for protected species or nesting birds. With standard mitigation such as the timing of clearance, sensitive lighting, biodiversity enhancements, and the application is considered acceptable, all of which can be secured by conditions. Officers are recommending approval subject to a no objection response from ecology on the updated ecology report. Any further conditions they require can also be added, but officers are confident that the standard conditions already included will secure the necessary mitigation and enhancement measures required. There's no objections received from local residents on the application, and Freighting Parish Council raised no objection in principle, but have asked for a few issues to be addressed, which have been addressed in the report or have been secured by condition where necessary. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And as I mentioned earlier, we have no speakers on this item, so we go straight to questions for the officer. Who's going to kick us off? Councillor White.
Thank you, Chairman. Mine is quite a simple one. It's to do with the footpath that's application, I had wrongly, obviously, understood that it was going to connect with an existing footpath which runs eastward. The way I'm reading this, connecting to the link in front of plot 7, could Amy just sort of confirm that it will connect with the footpath that then runs right to Freighting Cross? Or is it just purely and simply in front of the 7 properties?
Thank you. So yes, the layout plan here shows the connection to be provided through the landscaped area of the development itself. Beyond that, within the highway, there will be a requirement to actually extend the footway from that pedestrian connection right up to the existing footway that I think just fronts the development directly adjacent. And that's secured by condition in terms of the details and the timings of that delivery. So the footpath won't connect across the full frontage of the site. It will just go from that new pedestrian point within the development across to connect the existing footway. Is that okay? Yeah.
Any further questions, members? Councillor Alexander, then Councillor Wiggins.
Thank you, Chair. I know you touched on the ecology section of this, but the actual wording that's been written into our agenda can be somewhat confusing, and I'd rather like to go over that with you, if I may, again. So we're looking at page 21, and the last 2 boxes on that page. One is a 13, 10, 25, and the other is 24, 12, 25. And that's that one I would like to discuss with you. I'm a little confused by the wording, and I think most of the people I've discussed this with also found it quite difficult. Could you just explain the last part? If surveys are required to be undertaken to inform the LPA and the presence of the protection of, and it goes on and on and on, you've read all that yourself. It's this bit about distributes such as barn owls, survey will be required. Could you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So that's quite standard text in that our ecology advisors will include birds, barn owls within one requirement in terms of any mitigation or licensing. So because there was an error in the original ecology report, which didn't completely cover the consideration of birds, they have covered themselves essentially in their feedback to say that if there's some further requirements in terms of birds, there may be some further requirements in terms of barn owls as well. So that's kind of a standard response. However, the ecology report does state that there's no further surveys required for either breeding birds or barn owls. So that's covered that point, which hopefully will then lead to a no objection response from ecology once they've reviewed that amended survey.
Right. I see this as standard text, but it is a little confusing for the general public. I would imagine seeing it written in such a way. So, if I've picked up what you said is correct, that there could be another survey required to carry on. Is that correct?
So what's happened is the original ecology report that was provided, there was an error within that ecology report. So that has triggered this response from ecology at Place Services that says it's not clear, there could be a potential for future surveys that are needed. However, we've now had that corrected corrected and confirmed by the applicant and the agent that no further surveys are required. So that comment is essentially like a holding response. And when we get the new comments from ecology, once they've had the opportunity to review the corrected ecology report, those comments should agree with the content of that ecology report, which confirms that no further surveys are required. And then they should be able to recommend approval subject to conditions.
Chair, I have one or two other things. Would you like me to stand down and allow Councillor Wiggins in?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Alexander. I'll come back to you again. Councillor Wiggins.
Two quick ones. Do they really have to be 4 and 5 bedroomed houses? Why do they have to be 4 and 5 bedroomed houses? I appreciate that's what the developer wants to put there, but I mean, it just does seem, you know, over the top.
Yes, you're right. We have to consider what's before us. That's what's being proposed, that's what we're looking at, and that's what we're considering. Perhaps on a larger scheme, our housing mix policy would kick in, but for a development of this scale, there's no requirement to insist upon a more mixed development. And I think, as we've referred to in the report, it's fairly in keeping with the existing property directly to the west and the other houses that are currently under construction. So it does continue that line of that scale of property in the street scene.
I guess they won't look too out of place, but I do think that they will be taller and seem bigger than what is already there, from what I know of freighting. Yes, because the one on the extreme left-hand side, even though that's new, it looks more like, you know, what was there before, the Holly Farm. Yes.
Yes, the street scene here it is a little bit deceptive in that the proposed dwellings will be set back slightly further, so that will help how they appear in the street scene. They may look, we're comfortable that they won't look bulky or taller than the properties either side. Like I said, the setback from the road helps to retain that spacious appearance, together with all the retained trees and the enhanced landscaping that would be secured by condition. That should soften the appearance, and it should comfortably appear as an infill development.
Can I just ask about solar panels? I didn't see anything about solar panels.
Yeah, of course. So the recommendation includes a condition to secure details of sustainable construction and energy efficiency measures, which include solar panels. The plans that we've got say that there will be EV charging points for each dwelling, which goes some way in complying with that policy, but the policy does require a lot more information, so we've secured that by condition.
Any further questions? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Alexander. Councillor Sudra.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I believe Freighting doesn't have a neighbourhood plan. If they had one in place, would they have been able to argue the speeding limit that they'd like it to be reduced? Would that have been, possible then?
Thank you. It would be unlikely for a development of this scale unless it's something that would have been agreed as kind of a strategic approach with Essex County Council Highways, for example. Obviously, we can't speculate as to what might be included in a neighbourhood plan and might not be, but because the speed limit through Main Road is 40, to require a speed limit reduction for this section of the road or for just this development would be unreasonable. There is a 30-mile-an-hour limit further up the village, but the main road stretch is 40, and like I said, a development of this scale, unfortunately, we can't insist on changes of that scale for this type of development.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing was the Essex Police advisory quote. Do you know if the developer has contacted them or not?
We won't have any information on that at this stage. It's the Essex Police tend to pick up applications themselves from the weekly list. They're not a statutory consultee for this type of application, so they are just advisories for the applicant and the developer to pick up, which we can include as an informative on any decision.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sudra. So we'll go back to Councillor Alexander now.
Thank you, Chair. You'll have to excuse me, I'm finding the surface noise outside of this room and the acoustics in this room is absolutely diabolical. I'm having difficulty in truly catching the word. Okay, so if I may go over something again. Anglia Water and the surface water. Did you say that they have found a way through this and it's been solved?
Yes, so for this scale of development, Anglian Water and the Lead Flood Authority are not a standard statutory consultee. So in this instance, they've commented, but because they've raised an objection in regard to surface water drainage, which is not a consideration for a development under 10 units, we can't insist upon a surface water drainage strategy. However, we have dealt with that issue by adding a condition to ensure that any new hard surfacing for the development is either permeable or drains to a permeable area within the development site.
Now we go to a favourite subject of mine, trees. We were informed on the site visit, which pleased me no end, may I add, that although one tree will be lost because of its present condition and unsuitable to remain, the rest of the trees will be left intacto there. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I was just going to skip to the tree plan for you. So it's just one dead hawthorn to the front of the site that's going to be removed, and the remainder of the trees along the front and the other boundaries will be retained and protected by fencing during construction as set out in the tree report.
Yes, and I believe that tree, we actually saw it, didn't we, at the site visit. It's definitely dead, no doubt about that.
You can just see it there in that image.
Yeah, thank you. Alexander, anything further?
I have, Chair, but I'll wait.
I was just going to just mention, I know we were somewhere a few years ago, and those of you who were sat on the committee at the time, where we had a very similar application somewhere, can't think where it was though, and the speed limit, the parish council were concerned about the speed limit on the main road, but I think that was a 60. This is a 40, isn't it? It's currently a 40, and they would prefer a 30, and I think, if I remember correctly, at the time was suggested that the local highways panel would be best suited to deal with the speed limit following the development coming forward. Amy, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I've got no specific details, but I do know that Essex County Council highways are undergoing kind of a review of speed limits, and there could be something that comes forward as a result of that. And if anything, additional development on this stretch of the road could go in favour of perhaps lowering the speed limit, but yes, it's not something that we can deal with under this planning application, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Amy. I also see on the update sheet that the condition for the footpath, I know you mentioned it earlier, is connecting to the new pedestrian link to the front of plot 7 as shown in the drawing. And it's 2 metres. So I assume that the parish council are quite happy with that.
Yes, so that was just a correction to the condition.
Okay.
In the report, we've explained that having the footway extended across the full site frontage would be unreasonable in this instance because it's not necessarily connecting it to anything. So this is why we've secured the pedestrian link at the far end of the site, closest to where the existing footway is. That allows the developer to provide a reasonable stretch of footway connection. Because extending it across the full site frontage wouldn't be reasonable.
Thank you, Amy. We shall now go into debate. If there are any further questions, I'm sure you'll ask them along the way. Councillor Alexander, did you have any further questions? No? Okay. Or I will be looking for a proposal. Councillor White.
This is an interesting. But I am quite prepared to propose acceptance. It really only came to us because it was outside the village envelope, as I still call it. But we've had so many determinations recently where proposals are adjacent to the boundary, and under these circumstances, I'm sure that this would happen here. So, yes, I'm quite prepared to propose it, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Alexander?
Yes, Chair. I go along with what Councillor White said, of course. I'm quite prepared to second this, if I may. Yes, I do see a need for a larger housing. My daughter has just bought one on the outskirts of Ipswich. So there is a need for families of that size to have properties like this. So yeah, although I can see that they are quite, large, we'll put it that way. There are things that are some concerning me still about the application. The ecology part of it is concerning me greatly, but I believe that with the skillful officers we have, they will certainly look into that and make sure that goes through smoothly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Alexander. So we do have a proposal for approval for this application from Councillor White, as per the recommendation in our papers and any amendments on the update sheet, which has been seconded by Councillor Alexander. So I will now ask for a show of hands in favour of this application. That is unanimous, so that application is approved. So that just leaves me to tell you the date of the next meeting, which will be on Thursday the 19th of February here at the Town Hall. Thank you all very much and good night.